What if I told you that millions of California homeowners could lose their homes not because they missed a mortgage payment, not because of foreclosure, but because of a new tax most people don't even realize exists? According to state and county data, property-related fees and assessments in California have surged quietly over the past few years. And by March 2026, failing to pay this one could trigger penalties, tax liens, or even forced property sales. This isn't a rumor. It's already written into policy, and it's catching homeowners completely off guard. Here's the scary part. You don't need a bank loan to lose your house. Even if your home is fully paid off, even if you've lived there for decades, the state can still step in. Many homeowners, especially retirees and families on fixed incomes, won't see the danger until it's too late, because the notices are buried in fine print and confusing language most people ignore. So why is this happening now? Why are homeowners suddenly the target, and who will be hit the hardest? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the real reason behind this new tax, and more importantly, how to protect everything you've worked your entire life for. Number 1. California is desperate for revenue. California is facing a massive money problem, and most people have no idea how bad it really is. Billions of dollars in budget shortfalls, rising public spending, and declining tax revenue have pushed the state into a corner. Income taxes fluctuate, corporate taxes are unpredictable, but homeowners, they're stable, visible, and easy to track. And that's exactly why property-related taxes are now under the microscope. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your home isn't just where you live anymore. It's a financial asset the state can tap into. Unlike income, which can disappear overnight, property doesn't move. It can't hide. And it doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or just getting by. If you own a home, the state knows exactly where you are and how much equity you've built over time. That makes homeowners the most reliable source of revenue when budgets start to collapse. What's even more alarming is how quietly this shift is happening. Instead of announcing one massive new tax, California is rolling out fees, assessments, and property-linked charges that sound small on paper but add up fast. Miss one payment, misunderstand one notice, or assume it doesn't apply to you, and suddenly penalties begin stacking. For many homeowners, especially seniors, this becomes a snowball effect that's nearly impossible to stop once it starts. And let's be clear, this isn't about punishment, it's about convenience. Homeowners are easier to collect from than corporations, and far easier than the ultra-wealthy. That's why this new tax isn't temporary, it's part of a long-term strategy. And once it's normalized, it opens the door for even more charges down the road. If you own a home in California, this is not someone else's problem, this is yours. If this information made you pause for even a second, drop a comment below and tell us how long you've owned your home. We read every single one. These videos take serious time and research, so please subscribe to support the channel. It's literally one click, and it helps us keep exposing what others won't. Number 2. The state is shifting from income taxes to asset-based taxation. For decades, California relied heavily on income taxes to fund the state, but that system is starting to crack. High-income earners can move, businesses can relocate, and investment income can disappear during economic downturns. When that happens, the state's revenue dries up fast. So lawmakers are quietly pivoting towards something far more reliable: assets, especially real estate. Your home isn't just shelter in the eyes of the state. It's a measurable, taxable asset that exists whether the economy is booming or crashing. You can lose a job, you can retire, your income can drop to zero, but your property remains. And that makes it the perfect target for a new generation of taxes and fees. This is why homeowners are suddenly seeing new assessments, special charges, and property-linked obligations that didn't exist before. What makes this shift dangerous is that asset-based taxes don't care about your cash flow. A retiree living on Social Security pays the same assessment as a high-income professional living next door. The tax isn't based on what you earn, it's based on what you own. That's how people become house rich but cash poor, slowly pushed into financial stress despite doing everything right. Even worse, asset-based taxation is harder to escape. You can't write it off easily, you can't defer it forever. And if you fail to pay, the enforcement tools are brutal: liens, penalties, and eventually forced sales. This isn't speculation. It's how asset taxation works across the country, and California is leaning into it aggressively. The most troubling part, this shift is happening without a public alarm. No bold announcements, no dramatic headlines, just quiet policy changes that slowly reset the rules of homeownership. If you still think this tax won't affect you because your income is low or your house is paid off, that's exactly the assumption putting homeowners at risk in this new system. Owning property alone is enough. Quick question. If this surprised you, type homeowner in the comments so we know who this message reached. We put serious effort into breaking this down clearly, so please subscribe. It's just one click, and it helps us keep these critical updates coming. Number 3, local counties are using hidden assessments to fill funding gaps. While most homeowners are watching state taxes, the real action is happening at the county and local level. Cities, counties, and special districts across California are running out of money. And instead of raising taxes in a way that would spark public outrage, they're turning to quiet assessments that slip under the radar. These aren't always labeled as taxes. They come disguised as service fees, parcel assessments, or infrastructure charges. And that's exactly why so many people miss them. Here's how it works. Local governments need steady cash to fund things like fire protection, road repairs, flood control, and public safety. But voters are far more likely to reject a direct tax increase. So instead, counties attach new charges directly to property records. These charges often show up as a separate line item on your tax bill or in a notice most people don't fully read. Miss one payment, and it's treated just like unpaid property tax. What makes this especially dangerous is the enforcement power behind these assessments. Counties don't have to negotiate. They don't need court approval to start adding penalties. Once an assessment is delinquent, it can automatically trigger interest, late fees, and eventually a tax lien on your home. At that point, it no longer matters whether you thought it was optional or temporary. It becomes legally binding. Many homeowners assume these charges are small or one-time, but that's the trap. A few hundred today can quietly turn into thousands over time, especially if multiple assessments stack on top of each other. Seniors and long-term homeowners are hit hardest because they're more likely to overlook these changes or assume they're exempt. The scariest part? These local assessments are expanding fast, and once they're approved, they're incredibly hard to remove. By the time most homeowners realize what's happening, they're already behind. This isn't just a tax, it's a system designed to collect without resistance. Let us know in the comments, have you noticed new or confusing charges on your property tax bill recently? We spend hours researching this to protect homeowners, so please subscribe. It's just one click, and it helps us keep exposing what's hidden. Number 4. Climate, wildfire, and infrastructure costs are being passed directly to homeowners. California is spending billions dealing with wildfires, floods, droughts, and aging infrastructure, and that money has to come from somewhere. Instead of spreading the cost evenly, the state and local governments are increasingly pushing these expenses directly onto homeowners through new taxes, fees, and special assessments. And most people don't realize they're paying for it until the bill arrives. Wildfire prevention alone now includes vegetation management fees, fire district assessments, and emergency response charges tied to specific properties. If your home sits in or near a designated risk zone, and many do, you may be required to pay even more. The logic is simple. If your property is considered at risk, you're expected to help fund the solution, whether you can afford it or not. Infrastructure is another massive driver. California's roads, water systems, power lines, and drainage networks are decades old and failing. Instead of fully funding these projects through general taxes, local governments are attaching the costs to property ownership. That's why homeowners are seeing new charges for stormwater management, sewer upgrades, earthquake retrofitting, and utility hardening, often approved with little public attention. What makes this especially alarming is that these costs are permanent, not temporary. Once an assessment is added, it can last for years or even decades. And unlike optional services, you can't opt out, don't pay, and the consequences are severe: penalties, liens, and loss of property rights. The state doesn't care if the fire never reaches your home or if the road repair is miles away. If your property is within the designated area, you pay. This creates a harsh reality. Home ownership now comes with environmental and infrastructure debt. Even families who bought modest homes years ago are suddenly responsible for funding massive statewide problems. If this trend continues, and all signs point to yes, these costs will only grow. For homeowners, this isn't about climate policy anymore. It's about financial survival. Take a second and comment "checking my bill." If you plan to review your property charges after this video, we put serious time into uncovering this information. Please subscribe to support the channel. It's just one click and it truly helps. Number 5. Retirees and fixed-income homeowners are the most vulnerable. Out of all California homeowners, retirees and fixed-income families are standing on the most fragile ground. Many of them did everything right, worked for decades, paid off their mortgages, and planned carefully for retirement. But this new wave of property-related taxes doesn't care about past responsibility. It only looks at what you own today, not what you earn. Here's the painful reality. Retirement income is usually stable but limited. Social Security checks don't rise just because property taxes and assessments do. Pensions don't adjust when counties add new fees. So when these new charges show up, retirees are forced to make impossible choices: pay the tax or pay for healthcare, food, or utilities. And unlike younger homeowners, they often don't have the option to increase income or go back to work. What makes this situation even worse is how quickly penalties stack up. Miss one payment because you're confused, sick, or traveling, and the system doesn't pause for empathy. Late fees, interest, and enforcement costs begin adding up immediately. Over time, a manageable bill can turn into a financial avalanche, pushing seniors toward debt or even forcing them to sell the home they plan to age in. There's also a dangerous assumption many retirees make, that they're automatically protected. While some exemptions and deferrals exist, they're not universal, and many homeowners either don't qualify or never apply. The paperwork is confusing, deadlines are strict, and the burden is on the homeowner to act. If you don't, the system moves forward without you. This is why this new tax is so alarming. It quietly threatens the very people who are least able to absorb the shock. For retirees, losing a home isn't just a financial loss. It's the loss of stability, dignity, and independence. And unless homeowners pay attention now, many won't realize the danger until the safety net is already gone. If you or someone you love is retired, comment "Protect our home" so this message reaches more families. We invest real effort into these videos. Please subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, and it makes a real difference. Number 6. Unpaid taxes can lead to liens, penalties, and eventual loss of your home. Most homeowners believe that as long as they don't have a mortgage, their house is safe. That belief is dangerously outdated. In California, unpaid property-related taxes and assessments give the government extraordinary power that can ultimately strip you of ownership, even if you've lived in your home for decades. It usually starts small: a missed payment, a misunderstood notice, a bill that looks optional or temporary. But once a tax or assessment becomes delinquent, the clock starts ticking. Late fees and interest are added automatically, often at rates higher than traditional loans. Over time, what began as a few hundred can quietly balloon into thousands. Then comes the most serious step: a tax lien. When a lien is placed on your property, the government now has a legal claim against your home. This can prevent refinancing, block home sales, and damage financial flexibility. Many homeowners don't even realize a lien exists until they try to make a major financial move. And by then, removing it can be extremely costly. If the debt continues to go unpaid, counties can initiate tax default proceedings. This is where things turn irreversible. After a legally defined period, the property can be sold at a tax auction, sometimes for far less than its market value. The homeowner doesn't negotiate. There's no courtroom defense. The system simply follows its process. What makes this terrifying is how impersonal it all is. There's no concern for hardship, age, or intent. The system doesn't ask why you fell behind, only whether you did. And once it starts, stopping it becomes harder with every passing month. This is why awareness matters. This new tax isn't just another bill. It carries enforcement teeth. Ignore it, and the consequences can be permanent. For homeowners, the risk isn't hypothetical. It's built directly into the law. If this changed how safe you thought home ownership was, comment "I opened" below so others see it too. We put serious work into breaking this down. Please subscribe. It's just one click, and it helps us keep protecting homeowners like you. Number 7. Most homeowners won't realize they're affected until it's too late. One of the most dangerous aspects of this new tax isn't the amount, it's how quietly it arrives. Unlike a mortgage bill or a utility statement, these charges don't always come with bold warnings or clear explanations. Instead, they're buried inside official-looking letters, mixed in with routine property notices, or listed as unfamiliar line items that most homeowners skim past without a second thought. Many people assume that if something is truly important, it will be clearly explained or followed up on. But that's not how this system works. Government notices are often written in dense legal language, filled with references and deadlines that aren't obvious unless you know exactly what to look for. Miss one sentence, misread one date, and suddenly you're behind without even realizing it. Another problem is timing. These notices can arrive during busy or stressful moments, holidays, medical issues, travel, or major life changes. Homeowners set the letter aside, planning to deal with it later, not realizing that the clock is already ticking. By the time a second notice appears, penalties may already be added, and the situation feels overwhelming. This confusion hits seniors especially hard. Many long-term homeowners trust that if they've paid their property taxes faithfully for years, nothing major has changed. But these new assessments often sit outside the traditional tax structure, meaning past experience offers no protection. What worked for decades may no longer apply. The system doesn't pause to make sure you understand. It assumes you do, and that's where the real danger lies. This tax doesn't rely on public outrage. It relies on silence, confusion, and delay. By the time most homeowners connect the dots, they're no longer deciding how to respond. They're reacting to a problem that's already escalated. That's why awareness now is everything. Knowing early gives you options. Finding out late takes them away. Be honest. Would you have noticed a charge like this on your tax bill? Comment yes or no below. We put serious time into uncovering this. Please subscribe. It's just one click, and it helps us keep homeowners informed. Number 8. Renters are protected. One of the least talked about realities of this new tax is who doesn't pay it. Renters are largely shielded while homeowners absorb nearly the entire impact. On the surface, that may sound fair until you realize how uneven the responsibility becomes. Two families can live side by side, use the same roads, benefit from the same fire protection, and rely on the same infrastructure, yet only one of them is directly charged. This happens because property-based taxes and assessments are tied to ownership, not usage. If you own the home, you pay. If you rent, the obligation legally falls on the property owner, even though the services benefit everyone. Over time, this creates a system where homeowners are treated as the default funding source for public spending, regardless of income or financial stability. Many homeowners assume landlords simply pass these costs on to renters, but in reality, rent control laws and market limits often prevent full pass-through. That means owners, especially those living in their own homes, are stuck covering rising costs with no way to offset them. Retirees, first-time buyers, and single-income households feel this pressure the most. What makes this even more frustrating is the narrative shift. Home ownership used to represent security and independence. Now, it increasingly comes with an unspoken obligation to bankroll government shortfalls. Meanwhile, renters face none of the direct enforcement risks. No liens, no property seizure, no forced sales. This imbalance matters because it reshapes incentives. Owning a home becomes financially riskier, while renting avoids long-term exposure to new taxes. That's not accidental. It's a quiet redistribution of responsibility, and homeowners are the ones expected to carry it without protest. If this trend continues, the cost of ownership won't just be the purchase price. It will be a permanent financial obligation that grows year after year. And for many Californians, that raises a serious question. Is owning still worth it under these rules? If you're a homeowner feeling this pressure, comment "Owners Pay" so others see they're not alone. We put real effort into these deep dives. Please subscribe. It's just one click, and it helps us keep fighting for homeowners. Number 9. This new tax sets a dangerous precedent for future assessments. What makes this new California tax truly alarming isn't just the immediate financial impact, it's the precedent it creates. Once homeowners accept these new property-linked assessments, the door is open for even more fees and taxes in the future. Policymakers have a clear advantage. If the system works quietly this time, why stop at just one charge? This isn't speculation. History shows that once governments introduce new streams of revenue tied to property, they tend to expand them incrementally, often before homeowners even notice. The danger lies in gradual normalization. Today, it's a wildfire prevention fee. Tomorrow, it could be a stormwater surcharge. Next year, a climate resilience assessment or infrastructure stability tax. Each new charge is introduced under a different name, justified by a specific public need, but collectively they can add thousands of dollars annually to the cost of owning a home, quietly eroding financial security. For long-term homeowners, this can feel like a betrayal. Many thought that paying off their mortgage meant financial freedom. Instead, property ownership increasingly comes with perpetual obligations, none of which are optional. Even families on fixed incomes can find themselves at risk, forced to juggle multiple assessments while living on a tight budget. Another troubling aspect is predictability. Once the state establishes that homeowners are fair game, there's no clear limit to what can be taxed. Enforcement mechanisms are already in place, and compliance is non-negotiable. Homeowners who believe their property is safe because they followed the rules may be in for a rude awakening. The key takeaway: this tax isn't just a one-time event. It's a warning signal for the future of homeownership in California. Ignoring it now could mean accepting a system that gradually siphons wealth from property owners for decades to come. If this makes you rethink homeownership in California, comment "Watch out" so others see this warning too. We put serious time into uncovering these hidden threats. Please subscribe. It's just one click and it helps us keep alerting homeowners. Number 10. March 2026 is a hard deadline. The most urgent reason homeowners need to pay attention is timing. California isn't offering a grace period or a "will remind you later" window. March 2026 is the hard deadline, and missing it could trigger serious consequences, from penalties and interest to liens or even the forced sale of your home. This is not a theoretical scenario. It's written into law and already set in motion across counties statewide. Many homeowners assume they have time to figure things out later, especially if they've paid taxes on time for years. But this new system is different. Notices may appear confusing, or some homeowners may not even receive them in time due to mailing delays or administrative errors. Waiting until the last minute can be disastrous. Once the deadline passes, the enforcement process begins automatically, and stopping it becomes extremely difficult. The key danger is that this is a non-negotiable timeline. Unlike other bills, extensions aren't common and leniency is rare. The state and counties have made it clear if you fail to act, the consequences escalate quickly. Late payments accumulate interest, penalties are added, liens are recorded, and eventually, in the worst-case scenario, properties can be sold at public auction to recover unpaid taxes. This hard deadline highlights why proactive action is essential. Checking your property records, understanding any new assessments, and arranging payment before March 2026 isn't just smart, it's necessary to protect your home. Ignoring this warning doesn't just cost money, it risks the stability and security of your entire household. For homeowners, time is not on your side. Awareness today is the difference between keeping your home and facing irreversible financial consequences tomorrow. If this made your heart skip a beat, comment "Act Now" below to show you're taking action. We pour hours of research into these videos. Please subscribe. It's just one click, and it helps us keep warning homeowners before it's too late. Owning a home in California has always been considered a symbol of stability and achievement. But as we've explored in this video, the landscape is changing in ways that many homeowners aren't prepared for. From rising local assessments to asset-based taxes, from climate and infrastructure costs to hard deadlines like March 2026, the financial risks are real, immediate, and unavoidable if ignored. This isn't just about paying a bill. It's about protecting your home, your savings, and your peace of mind. The 10 reasons we covered reveal a clear pattern. Homeowners are now the primary source of funding for state and local obligations, and the system is designed to ensure compliance whether or not you're aware of it. Seniors, retirees, and families on fixed incomes are especially vulnerable, but no homeowner is completely safe. Even if your mortgage is paid off, even if you've lived in your home for decades, unpaid assessments and overlooked notices can escalate into liens or even forced sales. The good news is that knowledge is power. By understanding how this new tax works, checking your property records, reviewing all county notices, and acting proactively, you can protect yourself before it's too late. Awareness and early action are your best defenses, because once deadlines pass and penalties accrue, reversing the damage becomes far more difficult and expensive. This is more than a warning. It's a call to take responsibility for your own financial security. Being informed today means avoiding unnecessary stress, safeguarding your investment, and ensuring your home remains yours. Don't wait for the notices, the penalties, or the liens to appear. Take action now and stay one step ahead of the system. Remember, your home is more than property. It's a lifetime of effort and memories. Protecting it should be a top priority, and the time to start is before March 2026. Knowledge, preparation, and action are the keys to keeping your home